Kia ora guys, Tupuria King here, and welcome back to another Train Like a King podcast episode. It's been a minute, a long minute since the last podcast, but I'm back and no super strict script for this podcast. Just going to catch up about things that have happened this year so far and potentially what's to come. I will start off with the main question or headline around this podcast. And that question is, how do you beat Shell Vaa? And funny enough, I believe Shell Vaa were just beaten today or yesterday in a race. And I believe might have been the Air Tahiti Nui race. So kind of a relevant time to talk about that topic. I'll dive into that a little bit later. But just want to cover a few things of what's happened so far this year. Again, like I said, it's been a busy year. And I would say there's a few reasons for that being a busy year for myself. And yeah, it's first of all, the World Championships were in Hilo, Hawaii. So that was a main focus for me and the New Zealand boys this year, right from early on as February. We were already creating the team and designing the campaign for in the run up to Hilo, and that took majority of my focus. I'd say majority of my focus was on that. I will also touch on that. I had a lot more commitments to my day job this year too. So that probably took a little bit more time in terms of producing content for you guys and podcasts. And to be honest, even with the campaign itself, New Zealand campaign itself, kind of wanted to keep things a little bit on the D-low. So we didn't really document or video too much of our preparation for the Worlds. We were just building in the background really as much as we could. And the year has just flown by. It's just flown by. It's September now, so halfway through September. After this 3 more months left of the year. So yeah, it's definitely gone by. But thankfully, here in New Zealand, we're past winter time, in spring now, and summer is just around the corner, which is always good for our paddling here, because the hardest part is paddling through that winter when you've got your days are shorter, days are colder. It's just a lot harder, but already it's warming up. Already getting paddles and t-shirts and singlets and board shorts, so that's a good sign. And yeah, a few races left for the rest of the year, which is cool, local and abroad. Again, still quite busy, can't quite make it to all the events that I used to, the big events, but we'll see what we can make fit. Anyhow, how did we do at the World Championships? For our elite men's team, New Zealand team, again, I was thankful enough to be the coach this year for the 3rd campaign in a row. And this year we came home with 3 silvers. So silver in the 500 meter 6-man, silver in the 1500 meter 6-man, and silver in the 12-man 500 meter. We also had a silver placing in the V1 as well, with Manutea Mion claiming silver medal in the sprints, in the 500 meter singles. We also had a few other of us in the final, including myself and Jake Suito Loa and Ash Roosendahl as well. So yeah, it was a successful campaign. We came back with a silver sleep. And yeah, really proud of the boys, the effort that was put into the campaign, and couldn't ask for stronger competition, really, to be honest. Tahiti brought their A game, and it paid off. They really reinforced their teams, and that's what you want at a World Championships. You want the best of the best, and this campaign definitely had that. And it was interesting this year. went down the path of only having one paddler difference between the 500 and the 1500 meter 6-man team, whereas Tahiti took a different approach and they had almost a full separate team for the 5 and the 15, barring maybe the steersman. And so that was a good strategy on their part, and it paid off. But yeah, a couple of close races there. There was one race where I thought we had it. Actually, did a bit of a early celebration, but I'll take that one on the chin. Yeah, it was overall a great campaign. Not just for us, but for the rest of the New Zealand contingents, the junior women, the open women, the junior men, all had successful campaigns, and yeah, it was great to see. So, first time in Hilo, definitely a unique experience with the weather, I'd say. The conditions and just the difficulty of the lanes, probably threw a bit of a spanner in the mix again. Once again, you can't always have perfect conditions. Like London, for example, was perfect, but the lanes were really, really, narrow. So, you're gonna a world's campaign, whatever. You're gonna have positives in some areas, but then you're gonna have some negatives in other areas. Nothing is probably going to ever be perfect. There's always going to be some kind of disruption, and I think this year was, to begin with, the lanes, and then also just the weather conditions threw a bit of a spanner in the mix in terms of that constant side wind. But all in all, I think those who showed the skill and really put their preparation in, they most of the time came out on top. Big ups to everyone who competed, and it was great to see you all there. And thank you guys again for supporting the Train Like a King store. And yeah. So that was the Worlds. We went into the Club Worlds. I was with the Herberts on tour. There was a few other New Zealand teams there. We didn't quite back up our gold medal from London, but we still had fun with the paddling with the boys. And yeah, no, overall was a great campaign, minus the fact that there was a hurricane towards the end of the trip, and that my flight was cancelled from Hilo to Honolulu, and that caused me to miss my international flight from Honolulu back to New Zealand. So had to book completely new flights, and praying that insurance pulls through on that one. They aren't responding to my emails at the moment. But yeah, aside from that, successful trip, cool trip nonetheless. Next year is Brazil, long distance. So, what else has happened in this time? Not a whole lot. Had a lot of questions about people asking me, oh, why didn't you do the TI tour this year and Molokai solo and why don't you do all the big races and stuff like that? And it basically came down to a couple of things really. Was obviously the New Zealand, the elite campaign, so coaching and paddling, preparing for Hilo, but also a few more work commitments at my day job. So that was probably the main reason I haven't been doing as much. Trying to find good balance, and from this point forward, trying to see how I can balance both the work life and the paddling life, and pick and choose the appropriate races, especially for next year, 2025. But yeah, I think the thing that remains constant, no matter what, is time on the water. For me anyway, is always key, and it's always been that vessel for me in terms of maintaining well-being, all areas of your well-being, whereas it physical, mental. Um, the paddling is that one thing where it doesn't have to be a race. Just the general training is the thing that was important for me in basically producing quality of life, as I'm sure all of you can relate to that in some way, shape, or form. So what else has happened since then? Not a lot. Not a lot. The wife's been playing rugby league in Australia with the Dragons, based in Wollongong. That was fresh off her gold medal win at the Olympics this year, as she retired from Blackfin Sevens rugby. So she's due back in New Zealand in a week, and yes, she's still got a few. Even though she's retired from the Sevens, she's got a few cool opportunities still ahead of her. So busy times, but yeah, we keep moving forward. The reason I titled this podcast, or I wanted to create a bit of a debate around the question of how do we beat Shell Vaa, was because of their win at the Catalina Crossing. And I wanted to create this video, but just yesterday, I believe, Shell Vaa were beaten, which is quite another good topic to debate, because what I wanted to talk about is the question that it comes across everybody's mind when Shell Vaa win, say like the big races, the Molokai, the Catalina. And although Shell Vaa didn't win by a lot at the Catalina, that's a good sign. That I was thinking in my mind, after they only had a minute on second place on OPT or whatever it was pretty close for Shell Vaa, right? I thought, damn, this is like good signs for the other teams, of especially the Tahitian teams, to have the potential to knock Shell Vaa off the podium again, like they did at the Hawaikinui last year. But anyhow, no matter what, like Shell Vaa, they've had some really great results, and the question always is in the mind of people: how do you beat Shell Vaa? And my answer, I thought about it for a while, and my answer to this question basically is you don't beat Shell Vaa. Like you can't beat Shell Vaa. You can look at the technique, you can look at the way that they paddle, their synchronicity, like catching waves, and all these things. You can look at all of that, and you can mimic it as best as possible. But you cannot beat Shell Vaa unless you can first beat their system. And what I mean by that is that in order to beat Shell, you don't just beat them. You have to develop and create an environment that will set you up for success. And what that means is creating an environment or a system where, whether it's at your club or a place where you can create consistent training together as a team. So there's a lot of things that contribute to the success of a team, right? So there's obviously getting good talent, and one thing that Shell Vaa aren't short of is talent, because they are able to spot who is the best V1 paddlers, whether they're on the island of Tahiti or the outer islands, and grab you, bring you in with a good contract, whether that's an allowance or a job or these things. Like, they can grab the talent, they can fast track that, as opposed to other clubs who sometimes have to develop that talent themselves from such a young age right through. That's arguably more important than any other coaching. And they bring them into this environment where they have the facilities, the canoes, the support boats, the nutrition, the gym, the physios, the doctors. An environment where these paddlers can come together on a day-to-day basis and train together for the year's races. Now, the difference being is that physically, yes, you can get paddlers who are physically up for the task because they are putting in the mileage, whether they're putting the mileage in a V1 or OC1 or whatever. That's good, right? That you have good paddlers, V1 paddlers. That's kind of good. But Shell, they're not just getting majority of their training done in singles. They're actually getting the larger proportion of training done as a six-man, as a team. And it's that specific time that builds the technique and the synchronicity that's necessary to win as consistently as they do, right? So, yes, it's important to be fit. But what's even better than being fit is being fit together in terms of putting the time in together on the water together, you know? So, take me, for example. I train 95% of my training is on my own, right? If I was to switch that and don't get me wrong, like accumulated time together builds. So like if you're a club team, take Herbert's on tour, for example, we've kept the same team relatively the same for so many years, right? So we have accumulated time together. But if you were to fast track it, you know, and you want to produce like quick success, you have to create the environment that is going to allow your paddlers to spend lots of time together in a short period of time. That's why club teams tend to do well, because they've spent years, even though they may not train 6 days a week or year round or whatever, they've spent the time together, right? However, if you want all of the attributes or the things that will create success, you need the physical development, the time on the water, but that also has to be together, and it has to be easy. You have to make it an easy environment that everyone wants to turn up and commit to 6 days a week paddling together as a team. And so that's the system that Shell Vaa create, and they start in January and they train every day, probably barring Sunday, and big long sessions. But again, they have the environment, the support, nutrition, they have the funds behind them to foster such an environment, right? So this is my thing, is that if you want to beat Shell Vaa, you have to try and beat their system. And there's something cool in the fact that if you're a self-funded team or a local club team that has no big sponsors, and there's something cool and authentic about taking down such a big organization or a big team like Shell, right? Like there's some mana in that for sure, but it doesn't come without sacrifice. Like those paddlers who are still have to work their day-to-day jobs and family commitments, all that, they still have to come to practice every day after work and get together with their team and develop that synchronicity, the level and all of that, and just enough to maybe on a good day you can take out the titans. So that's basically, that's the answer really, is can you create the environment that will foster success and commitment to the training and the time together as a team. That's basically what it comes down to. Now, let's flip the script a little bit. Looking ahead, just yesterday, like I said, Shell Vaa were beaten. And I'm not surprised, because after the Catalina crossing, the times were so close between OPT and Shell and who was third? Huahine went third, they were fourth. I can't even remember now, hold on. Anyway, Shell Vaa were beaten in the Air Tahiti race, and they were beaten by Air Tahiti. Another team that is supported by an organization, obviously Air Tahiti Airline. However, I don't think the system is as dominant or as maybe financially supported as Shell. But nonetheless, they have been together for years now, training together consistently. OPT is the same. And yeah, sometimes I guess the system that you create is largely dependent on the paddlers themselves, because at the end of the day, the paddlers have to be the ones that are willing to come in and train together, and yeah, I think OPT, for example, are at a stage where their young paddlers have come up to a stage where they're all like willing to put that effort and time in, and it's cool to see, because obviously, like, you don't just want one team winning all the races for the rest of the time. EDT had their time with Steve Teotata and Rete and Lono and the boys, where they won 4 or 5 Hawaii Kinuis in straight. Then Shell Vaa came back, and then last year OPT. So it's cool to see, but it's a good example for international crews. If you're wanting to be successful against the Tahitians, because obviously they're the best of the best, you have to look at your systems and you have to create that system. So yeah, big ups to all the clubs out there who create systems like this already. And it may not necessarily be showing at the elite level, because you may be creating that system at the rangatahi level or the youth level, and at the end of the day, like I said, that's probably the more important part, because if we don't have any young paddlers, then we're not going to have any paddlers coming through to the older age groups. So again, ngā mihi to all of those coaches out there that they're putting in the yards, especially volunteering to do that mahi. So that's my thoughts there around how do you beat Shell Vaa. It's not impossible. It's just create the system, set up the environment, get the right talent in, consistency, together, time on the water, bit of sacrifice, and yeah, boom, there you go. What else is happening? What else? Well, personally for me, we have the long distance nationals coming up in New Zealand in a couple of weeks' time. New Zealand long distance nationals in Gisborne. Then not too long after that, a few months away, is our sprint nationals. There is the Molokai Hoi happening in October, first week of October, I believe. And also the Hawaii Kinui around the start of November, end of October as well. So a couple of big 6-man races there to look out for. I know all the Hawaiian teams and the Tahitian teams, they'll be gearing up for these 2 big races, the Molokai Hoi, Hawaii Kinui. That's the big race of the year. So they're putting in the mahi now. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to get on here, do a quick little podcast, have a bit of a kōrero, test out the new mic, and yeah, get the ball rolling again. So again, thank you guys, anyone that supported the shop in Hilo, Train Like a King. Thank you guys. If you're after training plans, merchandise, pedals, check out our website, trainlikeaking.com. Thai pedals. We got the Thai pedal collaboration, obviously, with Train Like a King. So big shout out to Conan and Lana for enabling that collaboration, enabling us to sell our designs. on their paddles. So yeah, go check it out, and we'll catch you next time on the next Train Like a King podcast. Kia ora. Cheers. Finish my coffee now.